It's time for the Daily Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest have undertaken an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about the movies and books and television and directors and film festivals and this really long list of stuff that I know nothing about, but they gave it to me and they really wanted me to read through it. And that's all I can really say about it, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast, your weekly podcast for all things movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly, editor-in-chief of dailyplanetfilms.com, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, co-editor, and co-human, Matt Freeman. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Scott. I'm enjoying being human today. And Scott, why don't you remind us what we might be otherwise?
We could be mutants?
That's correct, Scott. We could be mutants. I believe you owe Marvel some money now for saying that word, though.
I do.
Or no,
What's
not
the
Marvel.
Marvel one
No,
called
not
again?
Marvel.
I've been trying to think about it the last couple days.
What's the what? Huh?
The Marvel version called again?
Oh, the Inhumans?
Inhumans.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
we've
it was.
already messed it all up because Marvel can't say mutant
Oh, yeah, that's
in
true.
their own
Marvel.
movies.
Yeah.
Right.
So, if you haven't caught on, dear listeners, this week we're going to be talking about the Marvel movies that are not owned by Marvel Studios. This is in honor of Deadpool coming out last week. So these movies are X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and Deadpool. I think this is going to be a good one. I don't know about you, Matt. I think we have some very differing opinions on some of these movies.
But maybe not this one. I'm excited about. Wait, do you mean Wolverine or do you mean Deadpool?
I mean, X-Men.
X-Men in general. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Anyway.
I think we do. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, we are joined, as you can hear, by our recurring guest, James Gentry.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
You're very welcome, James. We're always glad to have you.
Hope everyone's having a great year so far.
It has been a good year. I can't believe it's halfway through February already. It's flying by.
It is going fast, yes.
And this is one of the tamest winters in Dallas ever. It's like 60 degrees every day.
Gosh. It's like every year's been hotter for the last couple of years or something.
Almost as if the climate's changing.
Yeah.
All right.
No comment.
Before we get into our Marvel related topics, we just wanted to go over some quick news. There's some interesting events that happened over this past week. One of them, Matt, I'm sure you'll be very excited by this. The Transformers movies more are coming. Transformers 5, 6, and 7.
Oh no.
Well, I'm only excited if we get book-length essay reviews about them.
Well, here's the bad news, Matt. Michael Bay is for sure doing Transformers 5.
Oh, thank God.
But Transformers 6 and Transformers 7 are coming a year after that. So we're getting them every June, I think, every year starting in 2016. So there's no way he can do 6 and 7 in enough time. So we're probably not going to see Michael Bay attached to these movies after this, which completely defeats the entire point of them existing.
Yeah, right. Because I can't imagine. Actually, to be not facetious for a moment, I feel like it might actually be possible to make a actually good Transformers movie. And we're just blinded to that fact by Michael Bay's domination of that property with his ridiculous Michael Bayness.
So do you think they just need to reboot it, or just try to keep dragging through what this franchise is?
I mean, if it's Michael Bay, then there's no reason to reboot, but yeah, if he wasn't on it, I don't know what they're thinking. What are they thinking?
I mean, there's no story. I don't know. They have to reboot it because it's crap, and then someone can make an actually good story about it. I mean, that's the thing is like, I've said before, you can make any property into a good movie by just having a good story that kind of touches on the elements that are part of that property. And when you're on like the 6th movie in a series, it's almost guaranteed that you're no longer really doing good storytelling. So
yeah, and I have no idea where they go. Do you guys remember the last movie? Because I saw it. I know I saw it. It had Mark Wahlberg in it.
Yeah,
and it had. Is
it on Netflix? I saw it on Netflix, I think, or one of the stream. Just for fun. Terrible.
It's awful.
Awesome.
It's
terribly
awful.
awesome.
And it made $1 billion.
It's terrible. Oh my goodness. Did it really?
Yes.
Holy shit! I would not have ever guessed that. If someone were like telling me how, like, if I had to place money on that hitting $1 billion, that's surprising.
And Matt, I don't even think it's fascinating bad like the third one was. I think it's just bad.
It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say something along the lines of like, I guess they're just gonna keep making all these like nostalgia property movies at a higher and higher frequency until they have saturated the market entirely. And then you say it made $1 billion. I'm like, well, they're not even close to saturating the market. Actually, they could make these movies 3 times more often than they're making them at the same price and still make a profit. I don't know that much about the economics of the industry, but it does seem like a no-brainer. If this was a terrible movie and it made $1 billion, then I would say, okay, well, let's just stamp these out one a year.
Yeah.
For the next 10 years.
And the thing is, the film industry is becoming increasingly more international business, and these movies kill in China. They love them. So that's why they're. I mean, I think the U.S. interest in Transformers might be waning, but I think they're gonna continue to do really well overseas.
Yeah,
and so they're just gonna keep making them. I don't know. If Michael Bay's not involved, sure, I don't care.
He's for sure doing the 5th one then?
Yeah, he's for sure doing the 5th one, and he said, I think everyone since the 3rd one that will be his last one. So he said the 3rd one's going to be his last, the 4th one, and he always changes his mind. So yeah, he might change his mind again, but with them releasing yearly like this, there's just not enough time.
Yeah, so, but since there's every indication that it's going to be the same Transformers, so we're assuming some of the same actors as well.
I would guess. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't remember any of the actors except for Mark Wahlberg. So, they just need to bring back Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox and just see what happens.
Yeah. Just have something different happen. Just have him blow up at the very end, or
let's just make Optimus Prime the actual bad guy. Like, just go full on with it.
Yeah. It was sort of building toward that. That would have been
possess him
better.
Oh man, that movie, the Age of Extinction. I can't. Part of me wants to rewatch it just to refresh my memory on how bad it is, but I don't think I have the kind of time to do something like that.
Yeah, well, the thing about that movie is that you feel like you want to rewatch it, and then you put it on, and then you immediately like start reading your phone or just leave the room and forget you were watching it because it's unwatchable.
That's true.
But it's also like fascinating that it was made.
Yeah, that's yeah. You're absolutely right. So, in less depressing news, Deadpool came out last week and made so much money. $135 million over the 3-day weekend. The highest opening in February ever. The highest rated R opening ever. I think the highest comic book origin movie ever. So, like, Avengers made more, but that doesn't count as, like, the first in a series, I guess, the origin story comic book movie. Highest ever. This movie was enormous. And we're going to talk a little bit about the film in detail later on in the podcast, but why do you guys think this is? I mean, other than the fact that it's a pretty good movie. Matt, do you think it's just the marketing? We were talking about the other week, how good the marketing was. You think it just interested people?
You definitely can't discount that. I think and these aren't my original thoughts, but I did read somewhere just how the marketing itself was entertaining. Like the tweets were funny. The Facebook ads were funny. like genuinely funny. You know, I saw one that I actually laughed out loud at, the one where he's wearing the Australian hat. And I'm like, I never laugh at commercials. You know, I'm always vaguely annoyed by commercials, but that it was actually really good. So it like immediately gives you this positive sense of association with the movie. But on top of that, like, you can only make the ads fun and funny if the thing that they're advertising is fun and funny. So there was a synergy there between the tone of the movie and, you know, the fact that they could advertise it in that particular way.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
One of the other reasons I think that it did so well is I think we've gotten to a point of, you were talking about saturation with the Transformers movie. I think we've gotten to a point of near saturation with comic book movies. So the time is ripe for a movie that kind of subverts or points out the comic book trends and genre tropes, and that's what this movie kind of does. So I think it was just kind of also perfect timing when, you know, there's so many comic book movies coming out. This one's like, hey, look, aren't comic book movies silly? Let's kind of make fun of them for 2 hours. So I think that attracted a lot of people that maybe haven't been seeing these other movies. They're a little tired of them, but hey, this one doesn't take itself seriously and pokes fun at itself.
Yeah, that's for sure, because a lot of movies that we're going to talk about definitely take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Both the Marvel-derived ones and the DC ones.
Yep.
Absolutely, and I feel like I saw a lot, you know, since I don't have cable, you know, I watch ESPN, and they did promote it a ton. I mean, it was pretty much every commercial break would show a Deadpool, you know, quick clip, pretty much for the last like 3 days of the weekend, you know, from like Friday to Monday, and
and like Matt was saying, they were good. They were good ads. They weren't.
Yeah,
they were funny.
Great ads.
They were creative.
A colleague at work actually kept mentioning about the different billboards that were being put up. But, you know, I think also some, you know, a lot of fans of comic books in general probably recall, you know, the super awesomely terrible Wolverine Origins movie, and kind of wanted to see, you know, an actual, you know, redo of Wade Wilson, you know, becoming Deadpool. And I think that was kind of a big, you know, that was a curiosity for me. But even with, you know, without the marketing, it would not have mattered. But yeah, if anything, it did make it more appealing to people that probably had no idea what or who Deadpool is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely attracted fans of the comic book. You know, Deadpool is a meme happy. Like if you're on Reddit or Imgur at any time, you're gonna see Deadpool memes and comic screenshots and all this stuff, but I think it was more than just that, because that wouldn't have been enough to get the kind of money they made. It was attracting people that might not have cared about comic books,
right?
So I think that's the marketing. But surely, Matt, the executives at Fox will take this lesson and learn the correct things from it. That if a movie's fun and funny and entertaining, it will do well, right? They're going to take the correct lesson from this.
Yeah, they're going to take the completely proportionate and rational response. They're not going to, for example, make all of the next movies rated R gore fests.
Right, because
this one was violent.
Yeah, because surely, I mean, Deadpool wasn't popular just because it was rated R, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Matt,
that is correct.
We got some news.
Yes.
They're making a third.
This is just coming in on the ticker.
Yeah, this is live breaking news. They're making a third Wolverine movie, and it's gonna be rated R, Matt. It's gonna be rated R.
Yeah. So while it is really stupid that is obviously their decision making process, I've always thought it was weird that Wolverine movies weren't rated R, because Wolverine's power is stabbing people with 6 knives and getting really horribly maimed and then healing. So I don't know how you could even hope to do a movie with Wolverine in it that didn't have like dismemberment and blood.
You could do what X-Men. You could do what X-Men 2 did and have him casually stabbing government agents like it's no big deal.
Yeah, but But
Yeah, he pretty
when he
much
does
works
that,
them.
I remember distinctly the scene where he like pins somebody to a fridge with his claws.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the guy like falls, and there's no blood anywhere. There's no blood on the fridge, even though there are the holes in his claws where he stabbed the guy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's this whole weird thing, and like, I mean, I think Deadpool needed to be rated R to do what it needed to do. I think a Wolverine movie being rated R by itself is not a bad thing. I think people are like the PG-13 violence, where it's actually just R violence, except they take all the blood out, is I'm kind of sick of it. Like, just like you're saying, it's not realistic. It's kind of dumb, and like we're arbitrarily deciding what's R and not by just, oh, well, he totally stabbed this guy, but there's no blood, so it's not really that violent.
Yeah.
But so yeah,
right.
they're doing this because of Deadpool, absolutely. But
yeah, right. Yes.
If any superhero movie other than Deadpool was going to be rated R, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also estimate that they're now going to put Deadpool in everything. Like he's going to have cameos in every possible thing.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm kind of worried about, but I guess it kind of fit.
And the whole thing about him is he's funny in doses, and too much is bad. And that's
right.
If anything, they need to do the opposite. They need to have other X-Men cameos in Deadpool movies, but they're not going to.
Yeah,
do that.
I agree.
That'd be nice, actually. That'd be nice.
Yeah, because if you're trying to have a serious movie, the last thing you need is a fourth wall breaking character reminding you that you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
But if you're watching a comedy that is inherently fourth wall breaking, then obviously that's what you're there for.
Yeah, I mean the current X-Men universe does not have a place for Deadpool in it at all. It's not the type of movies they're making at all. So
no.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll find a way to shoot him in. I bet they'll find it. They're probably doing reshoots right now to work him into X-Men Apocalypse, because that's exactly what Bryan Singer would do.
I hope not.
So let's, the cool thing about the news this week is it kind of tied into our main event. So this is a pretty awesome transition that I'm ruining by calling it an awesome transition. But let's talk about these.
Leave it in.
Let's. It's staying in. Let's talk about these Marvel movies. So I think the thing that I want to explain is kind of how this happened, because most people don't realize that there are Marvel Studios that owns most of the Marvel properties, that makes the Avengers movies and everything in the Marvel cinematic universe, Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever. Then there are other companies that own the film rights to Marvel property, like Fox, who owns X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. They, like Matt was saying at the beginning of the podcast, they own the word mutant, so a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie cannot say mutant, cannot reference any mutants. They just can't do it. Sony owns Spider-Man. So basically, what happened here was back in the before time, in the 90s, Marvel went bankrupt in 1996, and they were looking for ways to get some cash. So they had movie rights that they could sell to get some cash. So they sold out a bunch of the rights to a lot of their most popular characters. And then we started getting these movies, and the real, I think if you look at the resurgence of comic book movies as they are today began in 2000 with the very first X-Men movie. I think there was, I mean, if you can technically say Blade came out a couple years before that, which is based on a comic book. Yeah, but these are less well-known properties.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely X-Men was a watershed movie.
Yeah. So let's talk about the X-Men series as a whole, because I don't like them. And I want to make it clear, I loved X-Men growing up. I didn't read a lot of comic books, but the ones I did read were X-Men, Spider-Man, and Superman. And the X-Men cartoon show, I watched the hell out of that. So I love the X-Men universe. And I liked this movie a lot when I saw it the first time. But I think the genre has moved on past the type of movie these movies are. And I don't know how long it's been, but since you guys have seen X-Men and X-Men 2, but they're pretty bad. So
ruined forever.
I'll defend the first one, definitely.
and the third one is everyone thinks it's awful. Kind of killed the franchise. Then they brought it back with First Class, which I actually think is by far the best one. Also the one not directed by Bryan Singer. But then they went back to Bryan Singer with Days of Futures Past, and the same problems popped up again, I think. So, Matt, why don't we start with you? What do you like about the X-Men series?
Well, honestly, I really only like the first one of the Hugh Jackman ones, or whatever you want to call it, since they're obviously his movies. And then I did so I have to confess, I actually still haven't seen Days of Future Past somehow. No, sorry, I've seen Days of Future Past. I haven't seen First Class somehow.
Oh, the only
even
good
though
one?
I constantly mean to. I'm always like, oh yeah, that's definitely. But I like Days of Future Past though. Were there only two in the past X-Men movies?
So far.
Yeah.
So,
So
okay,
First
yeah,
Class,
the-
and then and I think Apocalypse is going to take place in the 80s or something.
Right. I'm pretty sure it's like established in.
Okay.
The X-Men timeline is so confusing.
It's all jacked up, but I mean, they had to basically erase what happened in The Last Stand up to that point,
Yeah.
right? Pretty
That
much.
was terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you
the-
saw
the-
Days
the-
of Future Past, so you're at least caught up with the story.
Yeah. the-
First Class was just the establishment, pretty much. So.
Yeah. The first
thinking.
X-Men movie, I think, was good. Like, I think that's kind of why it was a big deal, and like it served a very important role, which was that like it sort of begins in this very down to earth way, like you're in the normal real world, and then there are these tiny little elements that are kind of tossed in that are the fantastical mutant elements, and everyone kind of dresses normally until, probably, I don't know what point in the movie it is that the X-Men actually show up, and even when they do first show up, it's very downplayed, and eventually everyone gets in their leather suits or whatever, and it kind of gets silly.
But even those leather suits were doing the same thing that I think you're describing, is they were downplaying everything. This is movie very afraid of being comic booky, which makes sense given the time. But that's what I mean, that I think the genre has moved past these kind of movies, but it seems like with the new one they're moving back to that, and I don't know.
I thought the first, I actually really thought, and obviously we enjoyed them, right? Back then we were pretty young, right? I guess what was it, 2000, or when did the first X-Men?
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, 2000. So I was going into basically freshman year and in high school. But I still actually kind of do enjoy like the first 40 or so minutes, as actually, like, I feel like that whole part with like the Wolverine and Rogue introduction isn't bad. I don't think it's bad. Where, I mean, I think, okay, it's a little bit random how Sabretooth just pops out of nowhere, to like try to get him, or try to, to basically try to fight him or whatever.
He's trying to capture Rogue.
Yeah.
Rogue.
Yeah, right off the bat, right? Is that what he was trying to do?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole, and that's the cool thing about the movie, is you think they're after Wolverine the whole time, and then there's a twist that they're actually after Rogue. Yeah.
Right.
The twist is that Wolverine's not important at all, except the twist on that twist is he is, because he's the face of the franchise, and they can't make a movie without him ever.
Yeah. And I mean, like, basically everything from when they suit up, that's kind of when it just kind of gets, I think it kind of plateaus and just isn't super exciting. Although I did like kind of the score towards the end, when everything explodes or whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, I still do kind of enjoy the intro as being like very interesting and kind of showing like a little bit of mystery, but also being kind of real. Just what mutants are just kind of amongst everybody, and they kind of just meld into the crowd until something happens. Which are just kind of interesting moments, to picture them, see them in a movie. And, I think like it could have been done in the last 5 years and still, been successful, but maybe with like a different second half of the movie.
Yeah, it feels more like science fiction Like it doesn't feel quite like a superhero movie. It feels more like an interesting science fiction. Like if you had never heard of X-Men and never heard of Marvel, you might watch this and be like, "Oh, this is an interesting science fiction."
Which I guess is your point, right?
What would happen if they were?
Yeah. So
Because you want it to be the X-Men from the cartoon, which we love.
They're cool and they're weird,
They are cool.
and like I wanted to embrace the weirdness of it.
The weirdness would have been a cool. It would have been a cool take.
And I think we're still like afraid to embrace the weirdness. I think the only thing I'm excited about with Apocalypse is Apocalypse looks so weird, and I love it.
Is it Oscar Isaac?
Yeah, it's Oscar Isaac under that makeup.
Yeah.
So
you know what? Yeah, I know it has potential for sure.
The first movie was originally written by Joss Whedon, of Avengers and Buffy the Vampire Slayer fame. They took his script and completely rewrote it, except they left in a couple lines. And this is the most hilarious part. Do you know the line in the movie where Storm says, "Do you know what happens when a frog gets struck by lightning?"
Yep.
The same thing that happens to everything else.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, if you see the line written down, that's classic Joss Whedon.
I was gonna say, I bet that's what he wrote.
You would think, like, because that movie, that line was supposed to be read kind of sarcastic, and the direction in the finished film is a straight reading of that line, which makes it awful. And that to me is like a microcosm of the entire problem with these movies. Is like, and I don't want to say I don't have a problem with them taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes they're just afraid to be goofy and to be funny,
right.
And I don't know. The thing that really, like, the X-Men universe is so big and so cool and so,
which is I think why the cartoon was such a big hit, because we got to see that live or in action.
Yeah. And every single one of these movies is a movie about Wolverine. Every single one of these movies, they have to use Cerebro for some reason.
Right.
Every single movie. Every single one of these movies, Magneto's the bad guy. Sometimes you don't think he's the bad guy, but no, he's still the bad guy. And he's gonna float some big metal thing at the end. And that's every one of these movies. And I just want to see them do something different with it. And that's why I don't like the universe so far.
Well, the X-Men are hard, actually. Like, Spider-Man, and we'll get to this later, but I'm just going to mention Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man is intrinsically, like, perfect, because, and by that I mean, like, the character of Peter Parker is a great character to have a dramatic story around. The powers Spider-Man has are perfect because he's, like, super strong and he can swing around, but he's not, like, he's still very vulnerable. Like, you can easily imagine a foe, which would be his match, without that foe having to be a god.
Right.
And basically it's just a really great synergy of like power and character and the story, and it works really well. The X-Men are this weird mishmash of characters with wildly differing power levels. Like, you have a guy who just shoots, like, energy out of his eyes, who's for some reason the leader. And then you have Jean Grey, who, depending on what incarnation you're talking about, is basically a god.
Right.
And none of these people, for many of the, like, stories that I've been familiar with, really have very compelling dramatic cores to them. Like, they're just kind of like, yep. And I mean, it's basically soap opera stuff where all the characters have their own business going on with each other. But, like, if you ask me to describe, like, what is the dramatic core of Storm, I would be like, I could think of something, but it wouldn't be good. If you ask me what the dramatic core of Spider-Man is, I can give you a 5-minute speech about it, right?
Yeah.
So X-Men is just sort of inherently flawed.
Absolutely. I mean, looking back from now, it's obviously they're definitely not what we prefer in these types of movies now. Maybe with everything that's come out since then. I mean, I know that it can influence only so much, but I mean, I totally agree. Like, they were wacky and weird, and their powers were so on so many different extremes that it's hard to make that a kind of like a dark, serious, realistic take, because they don't.
So don't do that.
Right. So don't do that. Yeah. So don't do exactly make them, kind of, I don't know, like in the
And yeah, and I
just
want to
out
be
there, kind of like in the Guardians type of realm.
and I want to be clear that I don't fault the first two movies for that. I mean, I think they were movies that are very much recreations of their time. I just think
Right.
that we shouldn't remember them as fondly because if you look at them now, they don't hold up. I don't
They
think
just
at all.
they won't age well. They have not aged well.
No.
They have
But
not.
but I
they will.
want to see the series continue to grow, and I just feel like we're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And we're even with making another Wolverine movie. I mean, you say we're like people feel like we're in a comic book movie explosion. Wolverine has been in so many movies. Like,
Yeah.
he's been in every single X-Men movie except he only had a cameo in First Class, which is the best one.
Right. Which
and
was
then
great. Which was a great
had
cameo.
his two own side movies, and now he's getting a third one.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? They're so afraid to tell a story, and he doesn't have to be the center of your story. He doesn't have to
Right.
be.
Yeah, well, what's funny to me is that the Wolverine from like every other comic book or cartoon or whatever that I'm familiar with is not this character who they keep making the movies about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's
Like the super
sort
torn
of-
dark hero
Oh,
that's just kind
yeah, like very violent,
yeah.
kind of definitely mentally disturbed person.
Right. Can't seem to get rid
yeah.
of all his past demons of many random women's deaths and stuff.
Right, and they just try to make him Hugh Jackman with a different haircut. Hugh Jackman doesn't even walk correctly. He just like walks like Hugh Jackman. He doesn't try to walk like a haunted animal or whatever.
See, I guess, one thing I have thought about, in thinking recently about kind of the older X-Men is whether it's the characters or the cast, not that great. Not like, was definitely not a fan of Halle Berry, even at the time, just did not connect with her as Storm. And like, as good as like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are as actors in general, maybe like Ian McKellen being in, the Fellowship of the Ring maybe got me excited. Even though I'm pretty sure the Fellowship was a little bit after, or maybe around the same exact time. It was pretty close. But I remember thinking, I've just seen him in another great, in this great movie. He's got to be great Magneto or Eric Lencher, whereas and Patrick Stewart is Patrick Stewart. But overall, like their lines, there's not a lot of moments where it's like I'm where things that they write really kind of tug at the heartstrings. Like I said, maybe just like a moment between Rogue and Logan or whoever. But everything else is kind of bad.
None of the characters are cool.
Yeah, they're not cool. They're not. You don't feel like they're real people. Really, the thing I think I'm going to remember, honestly, from whenever, about these movies is going to be these very small moments of just pretty cool CGI, I think. Like, when Iceman makes the wall in the school when they're escaping in X-Men United. Like little things like that, I'll probably think of like with fondness, but overall, like as a story, it's kind of shit.
Well, we never get to see them just hang out.
We don't, and that's the problem. And that's why it's not going to age, and that's why it's not aging well. Yeah.
Are we talking about the newer ones yet, or are we still talking about the Hugh Jackman ones?
Just the old ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the newer ones are still the Hugh Jackman ones.
That's true.
That's the whole thing. Like,
yeah. Well,
well, yeah, but we haven't really focused on the. Yeah.
I just think that the in those is better. Like especially Magneto. Like the Ian McKellen Magneto is just a villain. There's almost no moments where you're thinking like, he has a point. But
right.
But the Magneto, which is the way he's supposed to be portrayed, is like,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you were in this position as a mutant, being persecuted as badly as mutants are being persecuted, and you had this godlike power, it would be almost impossible for you to hold back from basically making it a war, right? And so Magneto's motivation is very understandable, and that's sold pretty well.
Do we have to keep telling that story though? Like,
No.
Like the X-Men is not just about them fighting for mutant rights. Like that's not what the whole thing is about. But I feel like that's the only story we want to tell.
I mean, that's kind of why I'm happy they're telling the Apocalypse story, because like I watched the cartoon a lot, and really the only, I mean, the arcs that come to mind from that are like the Phoenix arc, which
Yeah.
I've already screwed up.
Yeah.
The Sentinel arc, which I don't want to say they screwed up, but I mean they
Which
already
one?
did it. The Sentinels.
Oh yeah,
The
right. The
time
Sentinels.
travel.
Did you
and the
know
Sentinels.
up until there was a guy, I can't remember, I'm blanking on his name, but there was basically a studio runner at Fox that refused to allow them to use Sentinels, and so
I did read that somewhere.
they couldn't use Sentinels until Days of Futures Past.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time they were allowed to use Sentinels.
You don't
Great.
You mean you don't count The Last Stand where they train against the Sentinel
No,
and
no,
Wolverine rips the head off?
I don't count The Last Stand for anything. I like how even in universe they've refused to acknowledge what the hell happened in that movie, because they're connecting in Days of Futures Past, they're connecting the world from First Class to the world that we left in The Last Stand. But in that world, Xavier was dead. Magneto had temporarily lost his powers or whatever.
Right.
And like they've just ignored it.
Cyclops was dead. Jean Grey was dead.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they reverse back to when Logan like first goes into the school, right? Or he's like just
at the end of the movie, but at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, at the beginning, it's totally
Xavier's alive.
It's totally jacked up. They just like totally erased it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well.
Another story I feel like, like even like something as small, but obviously with some changes, but like the Jubilee, like being an orphan or whatever, and the orphans that like live under the streets and stuff, like they could have totally done something with that,
Yeah. There's a whole subsect of mutants that, like I forget what they're called. The weird, like they're all the weird looking mutants. They have a name that I'm blanking on.
Freaks. No, just kidding.
I don't know. I just like, they're not bad, with the exception of the third one.
But you're right, though.
They're
they
not
could have made
bad
some smaller
movies.
stories.
There's just like, I would want, like, the X-Men universe could be so cool. It could be as big as the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. Like, there's room in there to do stuff like that, and it's just disappointing that they haven't yet.
Well, I
did
did
like went like bigger and better. I thought, or they tried. That's what their whole goal is.
I definitely like the Apocalypse story from the cartoon. Like, that was always my favorite. Maybe, I don't know, but I think it has promise because I mean, it's sort of a trope actually that you have a villain who comes and he corrupts some of the good guys, and then the good guys have to fight their former allies who've been corrupted in some way. That's the whole Apocalypse shtick.
Yeah,
and I think it's a promising basis. I don't know if they're going to execute it well or not.
Well, and the weird thing about that, I mean, I think they're making Storm one of the Horsemen, but like the version of Storm that they're making a Horseman is a version of Storm that we've never seen. So like her betraying the team, like that's not going to have any weight behind it. I think they're making Magneto one of them as well. That'll have a little more weight behind it. But freaking Eric is always the bad guy in these movies, so it's not going to be shocking. Oh, look, he's a bad guy again.
Yeah.
And they're using fucking Cerebro again. That's like all the... I'm so sick of that stupid machine. I don't understand why every movie has to use that machine.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. I was about to come up with an elaborate apology for it, but it doesn't really matter. What I was going to say is, like, Professor Xavier's power is actually pretty broken. Like, that's the thing. All the X-Men powers are actually broken and make no sense, and you have to just like tune how powerful they are depending on what story you're trying to tell.
Yeah,
because Xavier by himself could win practically any conflict with anyone.
Yeah,
right.
Unless they have like a magic helmet that stops psychic powers, which they obviously introduce, because otherwise it would just be too easy. So basically, in the movies, they have decided that Xavier can't really do that much unless he has Cerebro, and then they strategically take Cerebro away from him sometimes so that the other characters can have something to do.
I guess, yeah. I'm so sick of seeing that stupid X vault door.
Yeah.
Which, especially in the 60s, in Days of Futures Past, has no, like, when they go underground in that one, it looks so out of place. Like, they take basically the set from the modern day X-Men movies and use it for I guess it's the 70s and Days of Future's Past, but it looks so out of place. It looks ridiculous. X-Men.
Did they even bother to explain, like...
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay. Because I thought they had that one mutant whose power was that he could make technology.
They don't use that.
Oh, okay. Thought that was a thing.
Which one are you referring to?
I don't know. I thought there was a mutant that I thought was it Forge, or do they not have Forge in the actual movies?
No.
Well, anyway,
they just have Beast being really smart and helping to develop things.
Yes, right. So Beast allegedly did that. Okay, never mind.
And the kid in The Last Stand takes away powers. Don't forget about him.
Leech. Right. Stop. Gentry keeps dropping in The Last Stand. We're trying really hard to just ignore that movie.
Sorry. Okay.
God, that was so bad. That was so bad.
Well, we haven't even talked about the standalone Wolverine movies, but we don't really have to because it's just Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Well, X-Men Origins Wolverine was terrible. But did y'all see the Wolverine, the newest one?
I did.
No.
I saw it. It wasn't terrible. It just was kind of uninspired. I don't know. It was like, eh.
It was just kind of there. Like it was like, you know, compared to X-Men Origins, it was way like 10 times better. But it's not saying a lot.
Yeah.
But it wasn't awful. I guess, you know, it's like they tried to give him a little something to do, a little past, a little, you know, connection to, you know, the Japanese soldier. But I guess in the middle, there's not a lot of appeal. Just kind of take the girl, you know.
Yeah.
And he goes through all, you know, the whole power leeching thing, and I don't know. It had its moments. It wasn't like terrible, you know. It's just kind of like I like. Is it a long movie? I can't even remember if I felt if it was long or not.
It felt long. It's kind of slow,
felt long, right? Like a little long, a little slow. Yeah, you know, a lot of like, you know, powerful, stormy moments where he's just in a bad mental place. Like he's always in a bad mental place, you know. But this one really kind of stays there with him. But
yeah,
I don't know. The ending was kind of fun.
Let's move on because we've been talking about X-Men for a long time.
Sure have.
For like 30 minutes.
There's a lot of movies.
There's a lot of other movies. I don't have a lot to say about the Fantastic Four movies. They're all bad, all of them.
We should probably spend the most time on those.
I think Fantastic Four is another one of those series that these are four nerdy scientists that go on weird space adventures, and if you don't embrace the weirdness of it in your films, it's just not going to work, and they just haven't been able to do it. And that's really all that I think there is to it. I think these movies could be good. I think there's plenty of really good stories you can tell with these characters, and they just haven't been able to do it.
Out of curiosity, for question for both of y'all, how old would y'all start the Fantastic Four if you can redo everything, just clean slate? How old would they be in y'all's
probably
world?
30s.
Start them as adults.
Yeah, I
like
wouldn't do the
adults.
young thing they did this time around. I don't think it worked.
Is that kind of how you feel as well, Matt?
I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. Like, I know I'm fighting the hypothetical, but like, nothing about the Fantastic Four strikes me as like, oh yeah, this is a story that must be told.
Right.
It's like, I mean, any 13-year-old could make up a better superhero team with more interesting powers, with more interesting backstories, with more interesting origin story, and just make that instead. Find a random 13-year-old and make that kid's movie instead of the Fantastic Four, because it's going to be better.
I guess that brings up a good point. Like, I never really read Fantastic Four. I guess what's the appeal? I guess I don't know what the appeal is.
Well, it's their first. It's Marvel's first book, really. I mean, the Fantastic Four are what made Marvel. So
I gotcha. So that was
they're the first family of Marvel. So it's always something that they're going to have a lot of passion about. But I mean, I do agree with Matt. I think they haven't aged. Like, they're just not. I think there is a way to tell an interesting story with them, but it's a lot of work.
I agree.
No one's done it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's
Not even
possible
close.
that the movie that Just Trank was making might have been good if it hadn't been ruined. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, like in my review of that, I
Maybe.
really enjoyed the first half of that movie, and I thought he was doing something interesting that was less of a superhero movie and more of a nerdy sci-fi movie. And then it just went off the wheels. Like it was awful. It was so bad, so bad.
Money well spent.
So we're gonna finish on Deadpool. So let's jump over to Sony and talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Even the third one. I love it. It's really bad, but I love it.
Meh.
I still think Spider-Man 2 is probably one of the best superhero movies ever made. I don't know. I watched it last night actually,
Yeah.
and it holds up so well.
Yeah.
And the one thing to me that, you know, Raimi kind of changed a lot of the Spider-Man stuff. The suit doesn't look exactly Spider-Man-y. He doesn't move quite the same. But Raimi's movies understood who Peter Parker was.
Right.
To a fundamental level.
Yeah, there are movies about Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Which is great. One thing, and kind of thinking like, Scott, bringing up the point, I know we had chatted at one point, and you had mentioned how you liked the third one, and I think that it was maybe the first time I had heard you say that. And so I started thinking, what was it? Because when I love Spider-Man 2. Definitely was still one of my favorite out of all the superhero movies, and but there was maybe like one or two scenes that I guess I don't know if they're Sam Raimi type scenes, but that I thought maybe was like cheesy, and I was like, oh, maybe I can like do without that. And I'm pretty sure one that everybody goes back to.
Are you talking about the Gumdrops song one? Where he's
not even that. I like that. It was mostly
so
just like the sequence of the wedding, of her running out of the wedding.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
See, like that, but like, and to me, maybe my thought process is that the third, like Spider-Man 3, aside from the actual like problems that it had, which are numerous in the plot, but had a lot of those moments, like so many moments that I just thought it just came, kind of collapsed. But I don't know, maybe I've warmed up a little bit to the moments that I maybe didn't like in the second one after so many years. But I still can't bring myself to like the third one, even after all that.
So we'll get to Spider-Man 3 because I want to talk about 1 and 2 first, because
sure.
Like we were saying, like Matt was saying, these are movies about Peter Parker, and they're relatable because and that was always the cool part about Spider-Man, that he's got these superpowers, but he's a normal kid with normal kid responsibilities. And he's got to find a way to work and get through school and do all these things while he's also attempting to save the world. And it just makes the character, like, you care about the character. You want the character to succeed, not just in him getting to fly around New York on webs, but you want Peter Parker to succeed, and you care about Peter Parker.
Do you think Sam Raimi made his kind of bad luck moments maybe too frequent or too apparent, I guess? Or did you like that style about it?
What do you mean?
Just like everything he does is like his, just how clumsy, or obviously like how noticeable his nerdiness shines. I mean, like,
before he got bit?
Right. Well, before he got bit, and even after he gets bit. I mean, like, even even in Spider-Man 2 when he's late, and the whole pizza thing happens, and
Peter Parker's a dork. He's
a dork, but I guess
he's a dork. Like, he's a science nerd. He's really smart, but he doesn't have good social skills. He doesn't have a lot of self-confidence. I
guess I just never really realized how much of a dork he was.
He is. That's what he is.
Yeah. I mean, I think the movies only shine, they're better for having him just be really awkward, and everything bad is always happening to him, and he's sort of just being, painfully earnest, and just himself through all of these trials that he's facing, and then when he finally like kind of folds under the pressure, you really feel that,
Yeah.
It's earned. Like it's not like, to contrast like Wolverine or something who's just sort of always brooding. It's really powerful when you have a character who's always really optimistic, and then
Right.
they're actually beaten down by
Very true.
the story, and you're like, oh, I really, and then you're just like you're so rooting for them to like get out of their funk and go, put the suit back on or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, that was.
Right.
I mean, that was absolutely the coolest part about it too. Is that like,
It's
you
definitely
know,
still one of my favorite
superheroes in general are kind of power trip fantasies, right? Like,
Right.
like, especially Spider-Man, and that like he's the nerdy kid that everyone picked on, suddenly getting superpowers. Like that's wish fulfillment. That's fantasy, but it goes on to tackle this thing. Okay, you have these superpowers. Now what? And it just tackling the fact that like from us watching the movie, telling someone give up your powers would be like, whoa, no, I would never do that if I was Spider-Man. But the movie makes you believe like why he would be downtrodden by his life and why
Right.
he would just want to walk away from it all, abandon the responsibility, and just be himself again. And I thought that was really great. By the time that like at the end when he does finally just embrace who he is, it's such a perfect moment. And
and an amazing action scene that leads.
yeah, and
that it leads to.
the moment when Mary Jane first sees him with his mask off,
Right.
and then like he has to run over because the wall's falling on her, and that
Amazing.
moment where he's just like, "Hi,
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
true.
this
Actually,
is really
that's a-
heavy."
That's
And
a
that was
perfect example, actually.
and that was so perfectly like I don't know of any other movie that, so that's the thing. It's not even just this movie. They spent the whole first movie making you want to see them together and totally leaving you frustrated with it because he's like, no, I can't be with you, and I can't tell you why, and he walks away. And the end of the first movie is you're just like, because
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah,
you've been trained to expect the guy to get the girl, and he's just walking away in the rain, and it's this very sad, dreary ending. So they spend literally 2 movies building you up to this moment. So it's incredibly effective for that reason.
And what I loved about the moment too is that the reveal that MJ sees him without his mask on is slow. So like for me when I was watching in the theater, he takes off his mask to try to get Dr. Octopus like back to say like, look, you know me, I'm a guy that was obsessed with you, like
Yeah.
we can still do good stuff. And then like in the back of my mind I was like, oh holy shit, MJ is in the background, like she just saw him take his mask off.
Right.
And like by the time everyone in the audience is coming to that realization, they do like this slow pan from the camera looking at him to camera looking at her with him in the background, and it's just like perfect. It's like, oh shit, this is the moment, like, and it's great, and it feels really earned. And I think that's a really great point, Matt, that they didn't let him have the key. That the whole point of the first movie is him choosing the responsibility and feeling guilty about his uncle's death, and choosing, the whole "with great power comes great responsibility" tagline. And you contrast that with the new Amazing Spider-Man movies, where at the end of the first movie he kind of makes that same decision, and he even promises the father of Gwen Stacy that he'll stay away from his daughter because it'll be dangerous for her on his deathbed. Like the guy's dying and he makes that promise. And then at the end of the movie, like there's like this throwaway joke about those are the best kind of promises, the ones you don't have to keep. And it's like, you fucking asshole.
Yeah, just like the bath.
Yeah, he's terrible. And like Amazing Spider-Man, both those movies, they're not good movies, but they also don't, like, Peter Parker learns nothing. He's never punished for anything he does.
Right.
Like it completely they're just bad movies.
And you don't like cool Peter Parker, huh? Skateboarder Peter Parker?
Yeah, and he's like not a nerd. Like he's just a cool skateboarder guy that also happens to be really brilliant.
Oh yeah. He's definitely like the cool nerdy guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
dumb.
So I don't want to talk about Amazing Spider-Man too much because they're just bad movies, and I don't think we have to talk about them. But I did Spider-Man wise. I wanted to touch on Spider-Man 3 specifically because first of all, this is a bad movie. I don't want me defending the movie does not mean I think it's a good movie. I don't. I think there are a lot of really bad problems with this movie. I think the movie tries to do way too many things within the same film. I think trying to do Venom, trying to do um, Green Goblin again, and Peter's whole relationship with Harry reaching its conclusion, and the Sandman side plot all in the same movie was just too much, and it just gets ridiculous, and none of it gets the time it needs, and it all feels rushed and silly. That being said, it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is. And the thing that pisses me off is the part that people get most upset about or dislike the most is emo Peter Parker, black suit Peter Parker. And
it wasn't even not for me, but yeah, I absolutely.
But that's what I hear.
People
When I say Spider-Man 3 is not as bad as you think it is, they're like, really, the one with emo Peter Parker in it?
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's kind of
and my response
quick
to that,
fire answer from
see, my thing with that is Peter Parker is a dork, and this suit gives him like confidence.
Yeah. It's like a funny bit. It's a funny bit on him, well,
it's not even just a bit. It is a bit, and it's a good one. But it makes perfect sense for who Peter Parker the character is. If you're a dorky kid and suddenly you start to think you're cool, how are you going to act? And he's acting like what he thinks cool is, but he doesn't know what cool is because he's a dork.
Super dorky.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole point. It's like,
actually kind of genius.
And I don't see how people don't see that when the movie's clearly showing that. When like at first people are starting to like him and they're like impressed by his confidence, and then he goes over the top and ridiculous with it, and all these women think he's really weird. Like when he busts out of that clothing store like dancing, and like it's hilarious, and it's you're meant to think it's ridiculous. That's the point. And like, so if you're gonna hate on Spider-Man, hate on Sandman, hate on how terrible Venom was,
that is absolutely what I definitely dislike. You know, I do agree with you on that. It was actually kind of effortless too. Like, it wasn't, when I was actually seeing it in theaters, I was not furious at all about the scene, the dancing and all that. Like, actually, like, I
love emo Peter Parker.
Like it kind of made sense, and it was kind of in the back of my head. I think I was already pissed at that point because the movie plot wise, and subplot wise, and subplot of a subplot wise, was already such a mess at that point.
Yeah, well, what happened with this is kind of like with Fantastic Four. They didn't let Raimi make the movie he wanted to make.
Right.
The movie he wanted to make was telling the culmination of his friendship with Harry and what happens after Harry discovers that he is Spider-Man and seeks his revenge and goes a little nuts in the process.
Why did they not do that?
Because the studio wanted Venom. They wanted to put Venom in the movie, so he had to work Venom in the movie.
These guys making these decisions, just...
Everybody loves Venom. Venom's 90s cool, like edgy, and Venom is a stupid character.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's nuts is I think Venom could have carried a movie by itself. Like, there should have been the Venom movie, and I mean, like, you can. It's stupid to introduce that concept into a movie where it's just one of like 5 elements.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
What they should have done, and honestly, what I thought they were going to do, is I thought they were setting up Venom for the next movie. So, like, you have the black suit Spider-Man, you have his confrontation with the Goblin, and you do all that, and you resolve all that, and the movie closes on Eddie Brock becoming Venom. That's really what I thought they were going to do.
Take out Sandman, make it about the Goblin.
Sandman's a terrible villain. I don't know why.
It would have been perfect. Like, Raimi had it perfect, it sounds like. And then end with, I don't know if you want to do Topher Grace, but end with, Brock getting...
And I'm fine with Topher Grace, because...
I wasn't upset about it.
It's not the Eddie Brock from the comics, but if they're kind of trying to do a foil to Peter Parker, then I was gonna say, Topher Grace kind of works.
Yeah. That's kind of obvious.
It's...
And I feel like they hurt Green Goblin because of all of it, because of all the changes and everything. Like, it made it... I don't know.
I guess Harry's whole arc from wanting to kill Peter to screwing him over and taking away MJ to randomly deciding to be on his side again was just too quick, because the movie was overstuffed with all this other stuff.
You're right. And I don't know, Franco kind of had like a different I don't know, maybe Franco, with the whole like being bad thing, kind of like,
so good. I love James Franco in this movie. The line with the pie, "How's your pie?" So good.
I guess maybe because I liked. Yeah, see,
I love it. I love it.
I don't know. Like in the second one, I got it. Like I understood, but I guess in the third one, it was just like he's just being bad. I mean, again, you're right. It goes actually.
It's cheesy,
you can actually
Raimi
parallel it.
corniness is what it is.
Exactly. You can parallel it with Peter Parker's dorkiness and his dancing and all that stuff. It's actually kind of the same thing I thought with Franco. Kind of like they're playing this little game. But yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. There's some moments, but I just think the plot, like just like the fact that their decisions and knowing their decisions that were that just ruined the movie for me.
Yeah, it's not a good movie. I just want people to point out the correct things when they're saying it's not a good
definitely
movie.
agree with your arguments, and I definitely agree that there are still some good moments, even as jacked up as the movie ended up turning out.
So Matt, we touched a little bit on Amazing Spider-Man, but did you see those films? Do you have any opinion on the attempted Spider-Man reboots?
I just watched the first one of those two, and I felt absolutely no need to see the second one.
That was a good call.
Yeah,
it was. I think I agree with the mainstream critique, which is that the Peter Parker character is completely not compelling and just like a selfish brat. And
the other thing that they keep picking these villains that don't work to fight, like Sandman in 3, and was it Electro? Was that his name?
Electro, the second one in Amazing,
like,
and then
like you can't like the crocodile or the lizard actually works because you can actually fight, but like a guy who's electricity. Spider-Man's powers are all physical. You can't fight,
absolutely.
and there's no fight there. Like, stop.
I will say one thing about those movies: the fight between him and the lizard, like when they're in school, it absolutely delighted 9-year-old Matt. Probably better than any other action sequence in any other superhero movie ever. Because it had exactly like all of the stuff that Spider-Man does in like the comics and the cartoons and stuff, where he like moves right and he's really quick and he does like little tricky stuff by I don't know, it was like that is exactly what I wanted to see in a Spider-Man movie.
I agree.
It just so happened to be in a crappy movie. So
I agree. I think we were talking about how the Raimi movies got Peter Parker. I think. These new movies understood Spider-Man, the physicality of Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, clearly those are like you're taking these two elements from these, separate goes, and you could have combined them to make like the perfect movie, really. But never happens that way.
Yeah. Well, maybe because Marvel Studios has Spider-Man back now.
Yeah, but everyone's going to be looking for a reason to like hate him and be like, oh, well, we don't get enough of Spider-Man.
I honestly don't think so. I
hope not.
Did you know Spider-Man is the most popular superhero character?
That's true.
Spider-Man merchandise outsells Superman and Batman merchandise combined.
I did not know that.
It's insane how much people like Spider-Man. So
yeah,
I think
I get it.
Yeah,
sure.
I think we'll see they're going for a much younger character. They're going for a teenage, still in high school Spider-Man. We get to see him in Civil War. There's going to be a cameo. I have no idea how big of a role he's going to play, and he's going to get his own standalone movie. And it seems like they're not going to do an origin story because everybody knows the Uncle Ben origin story, and they don't need to do that anymore.
Right.
Just like Batman does not need to show the gunshot in the alley anymore. That's
right.
Like everybody knows Batman's origin.
I mean, I guess I'm keeping my expectations in check.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think Marvel understands their characters.
If it's in good hands with anybody,
I have faith in Marvel Studios. So
yeah, I agree. Who is? I guess I don't actually know who's playing him, but maybe I don't want to know.
Tom Holland, I believe it is.
Okay, I don't know who that is. I'll have to look him up.
We'll find out in May because we see him. I hope they don't reveal him in any of the trailers. I hope they save that for the film.
Good point on Electro as well, by the way, and Sandman. And like, it's one of those things that I guess people never really think back to the comics or even like the series. But they were still pretty tangible characters.
Well, and I think it works better in comic book form than it does in movie, because in a movie you're just seeing a guy punch sand, and there's only so many times where, oh, I punched a hole at him and it went right through.
Right. Which would have made it nice to like have, I mean, like then make it a story, like make it a Doc Ock, you know, like I'm surprised. I guess it surprised me a little bit that they actually did the lizard, you know, villain, whatever, pretty well, and then just to kind of, you know, all of a sudden take it to the cool zone and make it, you know, Jamie Foxx as Electro, but oh wait, he's actually electricity, like he is electricity, and it's like, what? It's impossible.
You and I had a whole conversation about how that character doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it's garbage, and like
his whole thing is he feels like he's invisible. And then his power is electricity.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
It makes zero sense.
I think, I mean, it's neat. I think Venom is actually potentially a good villain because he's literally the anti-Spider-Man. He has all of Spider-Man's powers except he's stronger and faster, and he's immune to spider scent. So that makes him like scary in a way that other villains aren't.
Sure.
Like he's sort of a horror themed.
Oh yeah. Would have been amazing to see done the right way. Like can you imagine a Spider-Man 4 where it just like crushes, you know, it's like on par with Spider-Man 2 and in terms of, you know, quality and box office, like man. That would have been something.
You just have Venom kill Mary Jane.
Yeah, or just something like 2000. What was Spider-Man 3 was what, 2008 or 2007?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
like just like 2010. You know, man, God, that would have been incredible.
Well, hey, now that we've had Deadpool and we're allowed to make rated R movies now, they should bring in Carnage. And Carnage can
really
just like butcher a busload of senior citizens.
Carnage is so 90s cool. I don't like Carnage at all.
Yeah, that's the perfect word. It reminds me of like this Sabretooth comic that I had that was definitely 90s cool, where it was just like it was highly disturbing to me at the age that I had it, because Sabretooth just like brutally murders so many people. And I mean, the way Sabretooth kills people is he just like is a giant terrifying looking man with claws.
Yeah.
So
yikes.
Just tears them apart basically.
Yeah.
Like a bear. And it's just like, you can't have that in a movie, right? Or I mean, it would be rated R if it were going to be effective.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, it wouldn't even be like a comic book movie, really.
But the floodgates are open because Deadpool proves that rated R comic movies work. And that's it. It's just the fact that it's rated R.
Yeah.
So speaking of Deadpool,
mm-hmm.
Matt, you have not seen this, but Gentry and I have seen this movie. So Gentry, without spoiling the movie for Matt at all, tell me your quick thoughts on Deadpool.
Yeah. So you know, if anything, that gives us a little bit of hope. The fact that Deadpool is Fox. I didn't really know anything about Deadpool before the super terribly or awesomely terrible Wolverine origins. So I guess I was curious, you know, kind of going into this, everything. Yeah, I kind of just talked to you or looked a couple things up. It's basically Ryan Reynolds' perfect role. You know, I thought the movie was very funny, but done very well, executed very well. I read somewhere where they thought that maybe it was like kind of fragmented, or maybe like the way it was positioned. I thought it was actually positioned very nicely in terms of the way they did the flashbacks. I don't know, some people maybe, I don't think people would have gotten confused, but I thought it flowed smoothly. Just so many good moments, and you know, overall a good small story. But you know, still able to include, you know, some other characters I thought that were, you know, that had some good, you know, some decent screen time. You know, maybe, you know, never got his friend's name or anything, but you know, you still kind of develop their friendship. And you get a little bit of, you know, Colossus and, you know, the girl, what's her face?
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say Warhead. Which no, but they end up being fantastic. Like I really enjoy They're kind of like little cameos, they're little moments with Wade Wilson, and I just think he just kind of knocks it out of the park because it's so natural for him. Anyways,
Yeah. So this movie, I think it's very funny. I think about half the
jokes are good.
I think about half the jokes do not land, but it is a movie that is throwing so many jokes at you that when 50% of the jokes are funny, that's a really funny movie.
Right.
So,
I don't know. I thought like a good. I mean, I thought more than 50% landed. I guess I don't know. Maybe because I already kind of knew, or
I think there are times when it was trying very hard to be funny, and I think I hated any time Deadpool didn't have his mask on. Like, I didn't like it. It annoyed me. I wanted him to put his mask back on. Basically,
oh, you almost thought like they showed it too much.
No, it's not even. Even some of the flashback stuff, like the parts of the film that didn't work for me were those flashbacks, without going into too much detail.
Oh, I gotcha.
But you're right. The cameos are really good. Colossus, while he looks kind of weird and cartoony, I think he was supposed to.
Yeah, see, I kind of like that. I enjoyed
Colossus
that.
playing a straight man to Deadpool works really well.
Yep.
It works.
It works great.
The fourth wall breaking stuff is all funny. Like that's some of the best humor in it is the fourth wall breaking. And the action is okay. It's kind of weird that the opening action scene is the best one, I think.
Well, see, but like that's what I'm saying. Like they spread it out.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 action set pieces in the movie.
Exactly.
So they spread out the beginning one.
Which says a lot, as to how successful, like how entertaining it was. The fact that it really was just this main scene that kind of jumps into like these different, obviously different parts of his past. But I thought the girl lead, what's her face? She's from
Serenity.
This is girl from Serenity. I was gonna say Firefly.
Yeah.
Was great. I thought she was real.
I wish they would have given her a little bit more to do, but
a little bit more to do. But I thought the things she said made her feel real.
I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I'm very glad Ryan Reynolds has been trying to make this movie for 10 years, and I'm really glad it's paying off for him. Like, it's a hugely popular movie. It's hugely successful.
Moment for him.
He's never really had a hit, so I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Because the movies that he's been in have been bad, but it's usually not his fault. So it's good to see him doing well.
I agree.
I thought the origin stuff, the origin story parts, were probably the weakest part of the film, but that just has me excited for the sequel because now that we've got all that out of the way, we can have fun.
Yeah, right. I guess we can't really go into detail on that. But yeah,
Matt Cable's going to be in the sequel.
Oh. There have been a couple of good Ryan Reynolds movies actually. There was I like The Voices.
Wait, what?
Anyway,
what is that?
He's oh man, it's hard to summarize. He's schizophrenic. He's a schizophrenic guy, and he murders people, but it's fun.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the name of the movie?
The Voices, because he hears voices.
Okay.
It's his dog and cat. And his cat is telling him to murder people, and his dog is sort of the voice of reason.
I now want to see this movie right away.
And the dog and cat. I didn't realize this the whole time I was watching the movie, but the dog and cat are also voiced by Ryan Reynolds. But he's doing voices, he's doing accents, so you don't notice.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, so overall, I think it was a solid B+.
Yeah.
I liked it. I'm glad people like it. I'm glad people are having fun with it. I think if you love Reddit, you're gonna love this movie.
Oh yeah.
But no, it was good, Matt. I think you should see it. I don't think it's one you have to see in the theater, so I don't think you're totally missing out on a lot if you don't see it in the theater. But when it's available to see, you should see it. So that's it. Those are the non-Marvel movies. We skipped Daredevil, thankfully. That's owned by Marvel again, so it doesn't even really count.
Right.
Well, I'm glad Ben Affleck gets another turn at bat with superheroes.
Oh yeah.
Gentry, let's quick tangent. Batman versus Superman. The last trailer came out last week. What do you
Garbage.
Think? What do you think?
I don't know. I guess different. I feel like a different approach to the story, but
An approach
yeah,
where
overall,
both Superman and Batman are crazy, and
yeah,
maybe we shouldn't root for either of them.
right. Yeah, I'm still not quite sure what I'm about to see.
I
Honestly,
think it's gonna
I
be a
don't know.
lot of fun. I think it's gonna be
I mean,
bad.
it's yes, bad fun.
So that the interesting
Definitely
thing,
bad fun.
the
Like
interesting thing about that one is apparently rumors are saying the budget is over $400 million. So
for Batman vs Superman.
yeah, that movie has to clear $1 billion to make a profit, and I
What?
don't know if that's gonna happen. It might, but Man of Steel didn't.
Man of Steel was frustrating bad, I would say. This I can see at least being kind of fun to watch. I mean, at least you get kind of like a wacky Jesse Eisenberg turn as Lex Luthor, I guess. Should be interesting to hear what he says in front of them both.
He's gonna
But
talk
I don't
about
know.
how he invented Facebook.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean like it's gonna be, I mean, like Lois Lane's in it plus his mom or his stepmom or whatever.
Plus Wonder
Um
Woman,
plus
plus
Wonder Woman.
Aquaman makes a cameo. The Flash makes a cameo.
Oh, that's right. I
This is an
forget that they're making
overstuffed movie.
cameos. Um plus what's his face, the guy that they create.
Tuesday, probably.
Doomsday. Thank you. Yeah.
Who looks like a
I
Ninja Turtle.
cannot for the life of me remember that fucker's name. Yeah, and he looks super not real. He looks like, I feel like I was about to start watching Van Helsing, which is not a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Ben Affleck as Batman should be fun. I don't know. Not really sure which one yet. I just like, I forget the guy's name who plays Superman. I think he's a pretty solid Superman. I just wish that he was actually Superman.
Yep, I agree.
But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, they're gonna tie it in, and we'll see.
Yeah. We'll all see it. We're gonna end up seeing
It's
it.
gonna be bright and colorful. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
What is it? Seriously, like Zack Snyder. Like it's just all bright and
It's gonna be dark. It's
with
gonna
dark,
be entirely
bright,
shot at night.
right? However, with dark, yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap this up with some quick recommendations because we're running a little long. So, Gentry, what have you seen that you would like to recommend?
Yeah, so I guess I've been trying to tackle some of the Oscar-nominated movies. I recently saw The Big Short. I liked it a lot. It was interesting. Definitely a different type of movie. I definitely recommend it for anybody that's just, obviously interested or even just curious, to know what happened with the, 2008 with the market collapse. And yeah, it's just funny. But also very sad, and it keeps your interest. I think the stories are, they're kind of on their own islands, but it works well. So yeah, I think people should kind of give it a shot. If anything, just to learn a little something that Adam McKay makes relatable to the layman in terms of understanding the housing market. I think that's worth a watch.
I do have a question. I mean, did you learn anything? Because I feel like I could walk up to a random person on the street and they could explain a credit default swap to me, because the all of that stuff was just inundating the media back when that was happening. Like I feel like there's a general level of education about the 2008 crash and why it happened.
Right.
I think
so did this movie actually teach you anything?
I mean, I already knew what had happened and how it happened. If anything, I guess what I learned was the story.
Okay.
I think
the players involved.
It was kind of like a history lesson for me. Okay. Aside from some of the terminology was stuff that I had obviously, not known. Something like that's a specific terminology, but they go so fast that you can only catch a summation of it if you, in a way. But for someone that doesn't know anything at all about what happened, I think it'd be fascinating on, bordering on, confusion.
I think it breaks it down in layman's terms.
But you got to be pretty
as much as possible.
It does, but you got to be pretty uneducated to not understand this movie, I would say.
I think Matt I don't agree with you. I think most people on the street would still not have a clear understanding of exactly what happened. I think they will know something to do with the housing market and bad loans, and
I agree with that.
and that's about it.
I guess it's just I just distinctly remember like
You hang out with a lot of smart people, and you pay attention to the news.
yeah, that's
right.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
you're giving this country too much credit.
I guess in a roundabout way, I was asking if I would learn anything, but I think it would probably be worth me watching just because of the history lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think
I think the cool thing is I didn't know about the betting on shorts that happened, like all the shorting that happened. I didn't know about that. So
exactly.
that's really the focus of the movie, is these people that predict the collapse and then short mortgage bonds and make a ton of money off of it. And that's the part of the story I didn't really know.
Yeah.
So
well, and maybe a little like some of the sequence of events that occur. You know how there's kind of peaks and valleys in terms of the way the market, or how they think, you know, that they could be wrong, or that they're being told it's wrong, but that they're like actually right, and so they're trying to like show people and get around it while also still betting and stuff. Like that whole thing was fascinating to me because that is the history lesson, really. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like what actually happened, they illustrate it really well. So
cool.
All right, Matt, what is your recommendation?
So I'm recommending the Tim Ferriss podcast, which is a podcast that I've been listening to since its first episode because I've been following Tim Ferriss for a long time. For those who don't know, Tim Ferriss is the guy who writes the 4-Hour books. So like the 4-Hour Work Week, the 4-Hour Body, the 4-Hour Chef. And I don't even remember how long he's been doing this, but at least a year ago, probably more like 2 years ago. I'm looking at the calendar thing right now. Yeah, it looks like 2 years ago he started doing a podcast where he would just interview like some interesting person who he knew or had been connected with. And he does like one or more of these interviews a week for 2 years now. So that's a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
And
wow.
And a lot of the people he gets are like Silicon Valley entrepreneur types, because that's kind of who he is, and that's kind of the circles he runs in. But then he just gets a really broad cross section of other people. Like I'm just kind of skimming through this list, and I'm realizing that if I try to read these names, it's going to be ridiculous. But like Sam Harris, the author on like spirituality and meditation, Neil Strauss, the famous like pickup artist guy. I'm trying to filter for like interesting ones. Peter Thiel, the guy who founded PayPal, the guy Peter Diamandis, the guy who founded the X Prize. The first interview, or maybe the second one, is the guy that the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer is about. Who is a very interesting character in his own right. I think for the show notes, I might just like pick my favorite 2 or 3 of these like 100 interviews and drop them in the show notes. The one this last week was pretty fun too. If you just wanted to randomly start with the one that was this week, that wouldn't be a bad choice, because it's this guy who runs a concierge service for anything. So like you just say like, I want, like apparently they were called by a billionaire whose son had fallen in love with a woman who the billionaire thought was a gold digger, and the billionaire wanted them to make sure his son didn't marry this person, and gave them money, and they executed a long, elaborate Mission Impossible style scam to get rid of the woman.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
wow.
And the story is fully described in the episode if you're curious from that.
Yeah,
description.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for more podcasts, so that sounds great.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, that's it.
Okay, cool. My recommendation this week is a new horror movie that comes out Friday, or today if you're listening to this when it drops. It's called The Witch. This is a American colonial folk tale about a family that goes out into the American wilderness to try to be closer to God and survive on their own. And spoiler, there's a witch in it, and bad stuff starts happening. That's all I want to say. I saw this movie at Fantastic Fest last year and absolutely loved it. It's really scary. It's really creepy. The atmosphere is incredible. Some of the shots of like middle of the wilderness, cold, scary forest is just wonderful and beautiful at the same time. The dialogue in the film is all, I don't think it's called Old English, but it's whatever the colonial Americans were, the way colonial Americans spoke, that's how they speak in this movie. It just has like an atmosphere to it, and it's great. It's one of the scariest movies I've seen in a long time. And it's not stupid jump scares, it's that atmosphere. It has a scary talking goat. It's great. It's great. Everyone needs to see it. It comes out the 19th, and everyone should go. If you like scary movies, you will like this movie, I promise.
That'll be me next week. I will let you know.
Sweet. All right. So that's it for this week. We got pretty nerdy this week, guys. But that's what happens when you're going to talk about comic book movies for an hour and a half. But next week, we are going to talk about the Oscars a little bit, because there will be a week from this Sunday, right? Yeah. So I think we're going to be talking about some of this year's nominations. I think maybe we'll look into some of our favorite winners from the past, and we'll talk about if the Oscars are an important thing or not. So look forward to that next week. James, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
As
thanks
always.
a lot for having me, guys. Good time.
Where can you be found on the internet?
At the old wench tweet, WENCH tweet, and that's it.
Matt, do you still
Twitter.
support the thing that is Twitter?
You know, I've honestly checked it a lot less frequently this week since they messed up the timeline. I can't even explain why exactly. It just feels like it's fake now. But I'll go ahead and give my Twitter handle anyway. More in the mail. And and I also write articles from time to time at daily.planetfilms.com, although my latest article has been going very slowly. I'm sorry about that.
So is mine. I haven't written a lot these past couple weeks. Need to get on that. Next week we're going to have a full week of Oscar coverage, though. So I'm going to be writing basically all weekend to get an article every day to talk about this year's Oscars, including my picks.
Awesome.
But you can find me on Twitter at ScottDaly85, DALY. And our website Twitter is at Daily Planet Films. And like Matt said, all of our writing can be found at dailyplanetfilms.com. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, on iTunes, Android, or just in the feed, if you could subscribe, like, share, review, whatever those awesome things are, we would really appreciate that. Like Matt said last week, we just want people to listen to this thing. So if you share it, that will help us. So thank you guys for listening, and thanks for sharing. Matt, Gentry, you guys have a good rest of your week.
You guys as well.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, guys.
And we will see you next week.
Podcast is over, it's done. We hope you all had some fun. Go back to your work or your school, maybe the gym. Hey, that's cool. Regardless, just go away. But please come back next Friday.